Hey, this is Nilsson, the mad scientist of muscle, and what I've got for you today here is a training equipment review of the X3 bar. Now, this bar is really interesting in that it doesn't look like there's really much to it. Here is the basic bar. I'll show you a close-up here. What it consists of is about a 2-foot section here. This is padded with a little bit of rubberized foam. The hooks on the end here spin freely. Now, as you can see, the hooks are fairly wide. The purpose of these hooks are going to be very apparent once I show you what you can do with this thing. Now, basically, this is designed as home gym or traveling gym equipment. It's a very compact, something you can put into a suitcase, bring with you when you travel. That's really the purpose of it. It's basically a gym without a gym. Now, I'll go through some of the exercises you can do with it and some of the positives and negatives that I found when using the bar. So, I'll give you a quick demo here of one of the simpler exercises. Let's say you're doing just a straight standing curl. This is a good demonstration of the various components of the exercise. So the main bar comes with a 3-band set. This is a small band, medium band, and a thick band. You'll also notice this platform. Now, this platform, I'll give you a close-up of this too, has, voila, this has a groove cut into the bottom, so that you will actually be using this to stand on while you have the band underneath the plate. So instead of standing on top of the band, you're standing on top of the plate, which gives you a little bit more leeway. It's a little more natural kind of movement while you're still getting the benefits of locking the band down onto the ground. So going back to the demonstrations here, let's demonstrate a standing curl. So take your light band or whatever band you're going to use. Set your plate, your foot plate, directly on top of it. Then you're just going to hook the band right into these hooks. I'll actually move this back a little bit and stand on here, grip the bar, and you got yourself a really good standing curl. Now, one of the drawbacks is very apparent, and it's basically the same drawback you'll find with any sort of band training, is the strength curve of the band, meaning you don't get a whole lot of resistance when the band is slack, and you get more resistance when the band is stretched. So that's pretty obvious when you're doing it. When you're doing exercises that focus on the stretch component, they're not going to work as well with bands just because of that. However, when you're working on exercises that have a strong contracted component, the barbell curl or standing curl is a good example. You're not going to get a whole lot of resistance until you pass the halfway point and come to the top. Again, it's just a standing curl now. You can do another alternative with this. What I like to do is a reverse curl, hands facing the other way, and then straight into a press overhead. So like so, and then press. Now, one of the nice things about band training is the instability inherent in the band, so you're going to get a little bit of stabilizer work as you're doing this. Now, on to the next exercise. This is a standing bench press. And one thing I like about this is I like to use this thing when I don't want to have spinal loading, because with band training, you don't get, like I said, a whole lot of actual weight loading on the spine. So, for example, if I'm doing heavy loaded carries, which I did just before this, I'm actually going to focus on just band training so I don't load the spine anymore thoroughly, essentially. So this makes a good addition to regular weight training, as well as using it as a home gym piece of equipment. So, set this here. Now, it can be a little bit tricky figuring this out for the first time as you're using this, but once you get an idea of it, it becomes pretty self-explanatory. So I'll move in a little bit closer here. You can see I just looped the ends of this band around the hooks. Now all you're going to do is put that right overhead, get that across your back, across the upper back. So this gives you a standing bench press. As you can see, not a whole lot of resistance here in the bottom part of the exercise, and because the width of the bar, I should say, is not that long, this is more of a close grip bench press than an actual regular bench press. But again, very good for the triceps, and you're going to be focusing primarily on the last half of the movement to the lockout. So it's a simple standing press, like so. Give you a straight on do here too. So that is the standing bench press using the X3 bar. Really works well. Again, not a whole lot of resistance at the bottom. Now, one of the things I really like using this bar is the bent over row. So I like to use the green one for this. The beauty of using one of these kind of setups with the bands, and especially with this foot plate, is that as you're doing a row, you're not only pulling back, but you can actually pull your body down into the exercise. So you're kind of getting the muscles work from both angles, so a downward and upward kind of pull. Now, when you're doing this one, when you're doing stuff on the floor like this, fold the band like so, so it's straight across, set it on the floor first, and then put the plate directly on top. Make sure that there's equal amounts of band sticking through here. Now, one of the things I want to mention when you're using this is stand on the very side edges of the plate. This is not so critical when you're using the lighter bands. When you start getting into the black bands and the thicker stuff, if you stand right in the middle, this board is going to start to bend upwards. So you want to make sure you're standing right near the ends as you're doing that. So get your bands hooked in, feet on the ends, and then you can do an overhand or underhand row. Underhand. Now, one combination exercise that I like to use for this is a barbell row straight into a Romanian deadlift. So imagine it like this. It's kind of a two-part movement. Start with the row. Now, that's a barbell, basically barbell row with this X3 bar. Moving along. Now, I'm going to use the same setup here. Use the thick band for what amounts to a conventional deadlift. So again, set your bands on the ground. Put your foot plate on top. And this is by far the easiest way to get this set up. It's going to save you a lot of time by doing it this way. Get your hooks in. Make sure they're even. Stand on the foot plate, and then that is your band deadlift. Right, so those are some of the exercises you can do with the X3 bar. Now, what I really like about this is, aside from the versatility and the amount of exercises you can do with this, it's really built solidly. This thing is not going to break. You might worry that this is a bit flimsy, but this is built with solid steel all the way through. Even when I'm using the heaviest resistances on this, I have no worries about this thing bending, breaking, or having any trouble. So the only real downsides to this, there are a few that I can think of, and nothing that should really prevent you from getting this if you're interested in it. The first is just the regular downsides associated with band training, which is the strength curve of band training. There's not much resistance in the bottom portion of a lot of movements. The stretch is not really activated in a lot of these, and it's really more in the contraction. The other thing is the width. So for example, if you're doing a bench press, you're pretty much limited to a close grip. Maybe they'll be interested in extending this out at some point, getting a longer version of the bar. I don't know if it's 100% necessary. It would make it a little bit more awkward to travel with, and doing that kind of close grip on a bench press still is going to give you a lot of benefits. Now, the only other thing that might give you pause on this is the price. It's not a cheap piece of equipment, I'll tell you that right up front, but if you're interested in it, this is really solidly built and it's going to last you a lifetime. So overall, bottom line, this is something I could definitely recommend, especially if you have limited space to train or you want to bring a good piece of training equipment with you when you're traveling. This is going to get the job done, and I think you're really going to enjoy using it.